It's really easy to trick yourself into thinking that you're going to change when you're really not making any effort. And there's examples of this in things like Acorns. It was a investment app, and I don't know if it's still around. I think it's actually gone now. But the general premise was every time you spend money, the app will take your purchase and round up the value and then invest your change into the stock market. And then you would wind up slowly building up a portfolio just by doing your normal thing, spending money however you wish, and then a little bit at a time, every time you slide your bank card, you'd wind up investing just a little bit. I've also seen things like a box where you put your goals in there, and then every time you do one, you put in some money, and then once you get to the end and you've done enough of them, then you can take the money out and spend it. So the general idea is you can trick yourself into doing tasks that maybe you would otherwise procrastinate by rewarding yourself financially for doing them. And I guess it's sort of like giving yourself an allowance for doing the chores, only instead of you going to your parents, you'd be going to yourself. And life is filled with a lot of these little gimmicks where you can install an app that will help you to be more mindful, or do something to make your phone limit how much screen time you do. There's just so many different examples of this. And the general idea is always you can just do what you'd normally do, and you don't have to really change your behaviors in any meaningful way. Just you do you. Don't worry about it. And then if you subscribe to this gimmick, you will wind up seeing results without having to really retrain yourself or put in any particular effort. But the truth is, none of them ever work, because change is always rooted in being truthful to yourself above everything else. It's not about a gimmick. It's not about tricking yourself into doing something so that you can not put any effort in. It's about getting to a point, regardless of what it is, where you decide that effort is worth it. And then at that point, you understand that it will be sometimes perhaps inconvenient. It will require you to change in some way. You will have to put thought and effort and energy into transformation. When you understand that and you accept that, then life gets more difficult in some ways, but also it becomes more meaningful because you're actually able to truthfully see what you're doing to make a difference in your own life. Maybe it's trying to lose some weight, and interestingly, you can think, oh, I'm going to go lose 5 pounds, and interestingly, 5 pounds never seems to go away, just because it's so easy to kind of do the same thing you've always done, and you don't really make the changes, right? So time passes and you step on the scale and nothing really has changed. Or for me, maybe it's planning to write a book, and every day I put it off another day and I don't really get the work done. And there's always another app out there that'll say, well, here's a good way to write a book. Use this app that's designed for people writing books. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what app you sign up for, what platform you subscribe to, if you're not taking the time to actually sit down and do the work, in the end, it's all going to be the same. Most likely, when the great people of the past who wrote all-time beloved favorites in literature, when they wrote their books, a lot of them probably just used a pen and normal paper. They didn't even have a typewriter or a word processor. But they wrote books that have been honored and cherished for many years, maybe hundreds of years in some cases. The point is that there's always going to be someone that will sell you a solution to procrastination. Someone who will always say, well, you can have an easy way out if you just do this thing. But the reality is, it's not about the gimmick, it's about the change of heart. I have games that I've been wanting to finish. TV shows I haven't finished. There's all those things, and I think we all have them, something. A book on the shelf you haven't read. Those things that you think are cool, but you never really got around to them. And really, what does it boil down to? It boils down to understanding I'd rather finish a few more quests in my favorite RPG today instead of scrolling on YouTube and watching the next recommended video or something like that. It's not hard, but it requires you to make a mindful acknowledgement that you're trading one thing for something else because you want a different result in your life. Maybe it's a relationship with a person, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to put in the effort. Like, you've got to put in the effort. You've got to try to reach out. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to keep the ball rolling, because if you don't, things aren't going to just happen on their own. Like, you've got to put in effort if you want to get something out of it. And I just wanted to take some time to talk about how it's so easy in our society to fall for those gimmicks, for those things where someone says, well, just do this little thing and your life is going to get better and you will effortlessly transform yourself into something better. But it's not really going to help you. I've seen the advertisements for the Calm app. It's an app on your phone. You can watch these little videos or hear soothing sound effects or something like that, and it'll help you go to sleep, supposedly. Help you stop scrolling on your phone or something like that before bed. And it looks like a cool app if you want to pay another monthly fee for a subscription to it. But what is the reality there? The reality is it's a cell phone app that's going to make you spend more time looking at a screen because it's going to tell you that if you use that app, then it'll help you wean yourself off of screen time and phone use. The reality is, if you want to stop looking at your cell phone all the time, then put it down. Just stop using your cell phone when you're laying in bed. Like, it's just that simple. If you want to be able to get up early, then go to bed at a reasonable hour. These are the things where we always look for something easy, something simple, and we don't want to do anything that requires commitment to actual change in our lives. So I like to tie things I talk about on this channel in with gaming themes, and I think it really does tie in very well with the principle of finishing games, because I think we all are guilty of probably having games in our library that we want to finish one day, or we have a quest line we want to finish, main story quest in your favorite RPG, whatever it is. There's always that backlog of material we want to get to. My challenge is get to it now. Just start working through it. Stop scrolling and stop doing things that sidetrack you, and start doing those things. Do them one at a time. And you might find that a lot of things aren't really all that difficult to do if you actually begin. But getting to the point where we actually want to give it some serious time and effort is the hard part. And the truth is, sometimes we don't have to give up that much of our time to do things we enjoy. I think you can probably meet all of your obligations in life and still have time to do things that you enjoy as well. But you've got to give up the noise. You've got to give up all the things that distract you and keep you from setting priorities in your life that you enjoy. You know, you can have a job that's fairly serious and intense and stressful even to a point, but that doesn't mean that you can't come home and disconnect and play your favorite game. Or you could have kids, probably, and I don't have any, so maybe I'm speaking a little bit out of order here, but I think you could have kids and you could still have quality time with your spouse. Or, you know, like we have these feelings that it's one or the other, you know, like you're going to be family centered or you're going to be devoted to your job. You're going to be a career minded person or you're going to be a gamer. Like, you can't be all of the things that maybe you would like to be. You have to pick which one you want to do and then do that. And I don't think that that's really the case. I think it's that we don't do the things that we say we want to do because we don't really value those things. And that's the bottom line. If you don't do something, it's because you don't care. That's it. And we always want to say, oh, well, you know, I sure wish I could get around to that. I wish I had time for that. No, you don't. Because if you did, you'd be doing it. I've said before, good people can do good things, and then when they start doing bad things, they become bad people. Bad people can become good people by doing good things. Like, it's not really you're in one bucket permanently, it's more changeable. You can be a good person who becomes a bad one, and you can be a bad person who becomes a good one. And by the same measure, we can be procrastinators who become proactive. We can be willing to change our interests and go from focusing on one thing or not focusing on something to embrace a different landscape where our focus and our values change. It is totally possible to change your focus and embrace different things in your life than what you have been doing. But you can only do that if you're willing to acknowledge the truth, which is that it's up to you. And if you aren't willing to do the things that are necessary for you to be successful in something, then you're not going to be. That doesn't mean that everything should be on your list of things you want to be successful at. But if you do have something where every day you get up and you think, I want to get that done, I want to get caught up on that, I want to be able to check that off of my bucket list of things, then you've got to say, okay, then I am going to put in the effort and I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to do some of these things that I've always been talking about doing. And quite often to do that, you do have to give up some stuff. You've got to get the extra noise out of your life so that you can focus on the things which are meaningful. And that's hard. It's hard because we don't like to take things away. We always like to add things, but we never like to give any of them up. And yet, You can't go to bed late and get up early all the time. You can't scroll on your phone till 1 a.m. and still get a good night's sleep. You can't spend all your time watching TikTok videos and still have time to finish the main story quest in your favorite RPG. You can't always do the same thing and expect different results. So take some time, look at your life, look at the way you spend your time, and say, what are the things that I would look at and say, this is the bucket list of stuff that I would like to get done. And whatever those things are, take some time and start doing them. Start doing them now, and figure out what it is that you're going to stop doing too. Doesn't mean you're stopping forever, but sometimes you just got to cut off the habits that prevent you from engaging with life in the way that brings you joy. There's a lot of stuff like that. I think the scrolling on the phone is a really good example. Or watching YouTube videos. Like, I love watching YouTube videos, but then I think to myself, why is it that I didn't finish that TV show? And it's because I was watching some random YouTube video of a dog wearing clothes eating chicken sticks or something silly like that. You know, I think, well, why did I watch that instead of finishing up that TV show that actually is higher quality content that was on my bucket list of things I wanted to do, you know? And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Don't feel like one day it'll all just fall into place and you can just get there. Like, you've got to put in effort and change what you're doing today so that you can look back on the day and say, you know, I like the way I spent today. I like the things that I was doing. I feel pretty good about where I'm at, and you know, it's not easy. It's not easy because we always drag our feet on stuff. But the good news is it really is easy in the sense that it's simple. Like, all you have to do is begin. And then things get better from there. And once you begin, I think habits wind up being a lot more contagious than we imagine. Like, we think it's going to be so hard to change, so hard to do something different than what we've always done. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get out of bed. Some part of your sleepy, groggy self tells you, I can't get out of bed today because I feel so tired. I just need to sleep. But if you actually get out of bed and you wash your face, you take a shower, you make your cup of coffee, then, you know, it doesn't feel so bad to stay up. But you've got to actually get out of bed. And it's that first step that's the hardest. But you've got to begin and start taking control of your daily life. Because I'll tell you, the fact is, life goes by so fast, it's just unbelievable. You know, I think to myself, 2015 just seems strangely like yesterday. You know, I was starting off a new job as an assistant manager at the Walmart store, and I tried to work on my career and did stuff like that for a while. Had some good experiences, had some bad experiences, and then COVID happened, and then I got married and I got divorced, and all this different stuff happened in my life. And now here I am, and 2015 turns into 2024, you know, and we're approaching the end of the year, and being mid-20s turns into being mid-30s. And yes, there's been growth, there's been transformation in my life, and in many ways, a lot of changes for the better. But then I also think about just how, you know, you have a weekend, you have time to do something for yourself, you have a vacation maybe, and you can work on doing some things that were on your bucket list that you wanted to do. Take advantage of that stuff, because you don't have forever to change. If you're always thinking you're going to wait until some magic gimmick transforms your life and suddenly everything's different without any effort, well, one weekend turns into 2 weekends, turns into 52 weeks later, and another year checked off the list, and maybe your life hasn't changed as much as you wish it would have. And a lot of that is because it's so easy to say, well, just gonna watch a few more short videos and then I'll get to work on the things that I wanted to do in my life. And your whole life can go by that way. And a decade doesn't seem like a decade when you look back on it. So the point is, it's a very good idea to make the most of today and to consciously take inventory of the time you have in the day, the time you have in your life, and say, how would I like to spend that? What would I like to do with my life today? I'm not going to wait until next year. I'm not going to wait to live. I'm going to make this evening count for something meaningful in my life. I'm going to make today be something that I feel that I am proud of. And I'm going to make a conscious sacrifice to surrender some of those things in my life that may be holding me back from pursuing things which actually bring true joy and add value to my life. Always remember that the things which inspire you and the things which inspire others should be the things that get the majority of your time. And the things which are not edifying, that are not uplifting, the things which are critical, or the things that are perhaps done at the expense of others, those are things we don't have time for. We don't have time to gossip about people. We don't have time to spend all of our energy on things that are toxic or unproductive. We don't have time to spend discussing why everyone else is less than we are. Like, we just should spend our time building up ourselves and building up other people. And I think, in addition to the fact we tend to repeat our old habits, a lot of those old time-consuming habits wind up being things that are harmful. It's making fun of people behind their back. It's gossiping. It's all of those things which, if you took them out of the darkness and you put them in the light, you'd say, you know what, I don't think I could actually say this is the best way for me to spend my time. It's fun when you're in your prime at the peak of the day, but when you get to the end of your life, are you really going to be happy about all the time that you spent criticizing people or talking behind their back or being frustrated about things or dragging your feet when you could be proactive about something? Like when you really think about life through the lens of the fact that we don't have an unlimited amount of time, and a big part of our life is creating a legacy that's going to be passed on when we are done here. Well, I think about the Wiccan Rede, and it just pretty much says, do what you will and harm no one. So the question is, are there things in your life that maybe are harmful to other people? Or are there things in your life which might be harmful to yourself? And if there's anything that's harmful in your life, harmful in intention or harmful in word, let go of those things and replace them with things that are uplifting, things that are positive, things that you can add to the bucket list of meaningful activities and be glad that you took the time to do them. And I always remember that you have to be willing to change. If you want to make change in your life, you will change as soon as you actually want to, and that's the bottom line. It's like people who say they're going to wean themselves off alcohol and drink a little bit less or smoke a little bit less or whatever it is. they never do, right? Like it's always the same thing. One of these days I'm going to quit. They never quit. Until one day when there's a wake-up call and maybe a close friend dies of cancer, or somebody in their family gets into a drunk driving accident and kills somebody, or maybe it's them. You know, it's that wake-up call moment when something crazy happens. You almost lose your marriage or something, you know, and then suddenly somebody looks at their life in a different way and says, you know what, I totally have to change. I want to change. I am going to change. And then it's like a light bulb that comes on. When people really want to change, they really want to do something different in their life, then suddenly they do different things and they stop talking about change and they start actually doing it. So maybe for most of us, it's not drastic changes that are so huge. Some of us, maybe for some of us it is. But even if your life is kind of in a good place, like you've mostly got your act together, that doesn't change the fact that you probably have some things in your life you've been talking about doing, things you've been wishing you would have done, things that you want to do. And while there's still time, figure out what those are and then make a conscious decision that today is going to be the day when you start doing some of those things for real, instead of just telling people that one of these days you will get around to it. As always, good luck on your adventure. Until next time, thanks for watching.